Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to this first look for Wild Rift patch 4.3a. Honestly, I was ready to, head to bed. I was just finishing off a few videos and also a few shorts that I'm going to be doing over the next couple of days. And then suddenly this tweet comes out and I'm just like, where has this come from? This normally comes out on Friday evening or early Friday morning, basically. But Riot told me that this basically wasn't coming out this time because of the hotfix that happened last week to both Lux and Soraka, so they didn't have time to do the first look. But basically, instead of doing it Friday, they're doing it one day before the patch. By the way, the patch notes comes out tomorrow evening, and I already have the patch notes. So I already knew all of these changes anyway. And there's also some things in this that are actually, or some things that are not in the first look that are going to be in the patch notes, which I'll probably cover in like maybe a YouTube shorts or something like that, or something in another video. But this basically has all the changes that I already knew from the patch notes, except for two things. There's two things from the patch notes that are not in this first look. But anyway, we're going to be going through all of these changes, letting you know my thoughts. And again, as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know down in the comments what you think of these changes that is going to be happening on Thursday. This update happens on Thursday. Patch notes is tomorrow, which is Wednesday, and the patch will go live on Thursday EU time. So champion buffs. First up is Caitlyn. Honestly, I don't think this really means anything at all, to be honest with you. This is just, making Caitlyn's charging time for Yordle Snap Trap in the early game happen a little bit sooner, so you can use maybe more traps in the early game. Doesn't really mean too much, to be honest, for Caitlyn. I think Caitlyn's in kind of a weird spot anyway. I actually have a Caitlyn video coming out, should come out tomorrow. So you'll be able to see, a little bit of gameplay for Caitlyn before the buffs come through for her. But again, this doesn't really mean too much. I don't think this is going to affect her at all in terms of win rates or anything like that. She's in a decent spot. She's not the best ADC. She's also not the worst ADC at the moment. She still has her benefits and weaknesses. Graves, this is definitely a champion that has not been in the meta for quite some time now because of obviously assassins coming into the meta and also just overall just how much damage is in the game right now. It's very difficult for Graves to walk up and actually auto attack because obviously Graves is a low range marksman, so it's actually very difficult for Graves to dash forward, auto attack, use his abilities, because when he gets within close range of like a Kayn, Kha'Zix, Evelynn, anyone like that, you just get one shot. Even the bruisers and tanks right now are really difficult to kill for Graves, so kind of not surprised really that he's getting a buff. So end of the line, the second half bonus attack damage is going up by 10% at every single rank. So if you don't know Graves' first ability, it goes forward and then it comes back towards him. Now this can obviously be bounced off walls as well. So you could use your first ability off a wall, and as soon as your first ability will hit off the wall or hit the wall, it will bounce back straight towards you. So you'll be able to do a little bit more damage with your first ability, and also the base damage of the ultimate is going up by 25 every single rank. So a little bit more damage, a little bit more burst damage potentially for Graves. Again, as I mentioned, I don't think it really means too much. The runes haven't really been that good for him overall. He doesn't really have a lot of great runes to run. Again, the items are still pretty good for him, shield bow, bloodthirster, black cleaver, etc. It's just kind of the meta that we're in at the moment. It's making it quite difficult for him. Gwen. Now, even though this says this is a buff, there is a nerf in here, which is snip snip. So there's a new damage ratio to monsters, which is now only going to be 80%. This says new here because basically at the moment Gwen does like 100% damage. She doesn't have any damage mitigations or anything like that to monsters on the first ability. So now the damage ratio to monsters is now 80%. Same down here with, I believe it's Neela. Active damage ratio of Formless Blade to monsters is now 60%. So from basically going from 100% down to 80% and 100% going down to 60%. So bit of a weird one that Gwen's in the buffs even though this is here, unless this means something different. I don't think it does. Yeah, same with Volibear here as well. Volibear also has the same thing to monsters, which we'll get into a bit later on. Needlework, so the second ability, the cooldown is going down again mainly in the early stages of the game, so you can use this more often in the early game. This will help Gwen a little bit with skirmishes in the early game. She also received a bit of a buff before, if I remember, and also gaining bonus armor and magic resist is also going up a little bit in the early stages of the game. So being able to use your second ability more often, being able to get a bonus armor and magic resist, and also dodging auto attacks can help Gwen quite a lot during the laning phase, because she does still struggle in the laning phase quite a bit. bit. So using this to help you and prevent, you know, damage coming towards you, and also giving you a little bit of extra bonuses in terms of resistances, can definitely help her in the laning phase. Again, late game hasn't really done too much. I mean, Gwen is already very strong in a late game. It's more to do with her early game and her laning phase, which is why this has been buffed ever so slightly. Lee Sin, first ability. A little bit surprised that Lee Sin is getting buffed. I kind of understand it. At the same time, I don't, because I still think Lee Sin is very strong. Obviously, he's not as strong as, like, you know, Kayn, Kha'Zix, and all these junglers right now, but Lee Sin as a jungler is still fairly strong. He still has one of the strongest early games out of any jungler right now, and this is basically going to make him even stronger. So Sonic Wave bonus attack damage, which is the first part of the first ability. When it hits, it now does 5% more damage based on your attack damage. And Resonate Strike, which is the second part, when you travel towards the target, is now going to be doing 5% to 10% more damage. I'm guessing this is based on level. I'm not really too sure how this damage stat goes up, so I guess it depends on level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 of the ability. But this is more normally the ability that you max first, so maybe you'll be able to feel the 10% difference that you'll be getting at maximum level, or it might be on player level. I'm not really too sure. Might be on player level or maybe the ability level. Not 100% sure. But yeah, overall, kind of surprised that Lee Sin does get nerfed. But either way, I still think Lee Sin is in a pretty decent spot. I will still say in a pretty decent spot. Leona, I feel like this is like the 20th time Leona has been buffed in the past few months now. Like, Leona's got so many buffs. I remember the range on the third ability, the range on the ultimate, the armor match resist going up on the second ability, base stats going up, and now she's getting more base stat increases. Interesting enough, it's actually her attack damage, which is a bit of a weird one, to be honest with you. Leona doesn't really auto attack that much as a support. I mean, sometimes when you dash in with like your third ability and then use your first ability, you maybe auto attack like once or twice. So your attack damage going up by 4, and also in the your base AD going up by 4, and the attack damage per level is now going up by like 1.3 every level. So you get like an extra, what, like 16, 17 AD at level 15. Again, I don't think that will really mean too much, but hey, I mean, if you want to play like top Leona or maybe jungle Leona, maybe this might benefit you a little bit. We'll have to wait and see. Solar Flare base damage is actually pretty big though, going up by 50 base damage. Obviously, Leona doesn't really build. I believe it scales off ability power. Obviously, you don't really build ability power for Leona, so just base damage overall for tank supports are really, really great. And to be fair, I've been playing with a few Leonas recently, and Leona does feel relatively strong. I think tank supports in general got a lot stronger. I do think enchanters are still very strong, but I think with tank supports, with the additional glacial augment, with some of the runes as well, like overgrowth, being able to get super tanky, still be able to run bone plates, and also courage of the colossus, I think tank supports in general are fairly strong. Just not as strong as the enchanter support still, because they're still like really, really broken. Samira also getting a buff. I played Samira, I think, once off stream, and I had a pretty decent early game advantage, and I just felt like I did 0 damage. So a little bit of a buff here. Nothing too crazy though. Only a 5% bonus attack damage on the first ability, and then mainly to do with the second ability. Second ability cooldown going down by 4 seconds, and also in the late game as well, going down by 2.5 seconds. So mainly just being able to use Blade well more often. Not only is this really good for obviously blocking skill shots, this is also really good for your combos, because most of the time you actually want to wait for your second ability to be off cooldown, because you can make your second ability work as 2 stacks towards going to your S rank, which is very, very important. So if you want to do that, if you want to wait for Samira's cooldown, then that could be really, really great. And also, like, you know, it going down by 2.5 seconds means you can wait 2.5 less seconds, or even 4 seconds, because to be honest, this is the last ability that you max, so most of the time you're going to be feeling that 4-second difference. So waiting 4 less seconds down to jump into your combo might be a pretty big difference. This 5% damage buff doesn't really do too much, but I quite like that Samira's getting buffed in general. Like I said, I don't really think she's that strong at all. Item buffs, Gluttonous Grease. I think this is by far like the worst boots right now. Gluttonous Grease. I think this definitely warranted getting a buff. I think Omnivamp on boots is not a great thing, and most of the time players go for either Berserker Greaves or defensive boots, or basically the armor penetration boots. Omnivamp is not really needed on boots because you have the bloodline rune from the precision tree, which most AD carries run. So Gluttonous Greaves is only used on like a few champions. But the attack damage going up is actually pretty big, like going up by 5 AD. So maybe now with this being relatively cheaper, maybe you can rush Gluttonous Greaves as the first item, and then maybe you can get attack speed from your runes instead. Maybe you get a little bit more from that. I think that could be very, very interesting. I wonder if I have the... no, I don't. I was wondering if I had the game open to quickly check something. But yeah, if you compare this to something like Berserker Greaves, I can't remember how much Berserker Greaves AD attack damage gives. I believe it's 15. Even just in general, the armor pen ones, I'm pretty sure these boots now give the most attack damage out of all of the boots. I think it still costs the same price as Berserker Greaves as well. Let's wait for the game to load, just quickly check. I can't remember numbers off the top of my head because it's only been a new thing quite recently. So yeah, Berserker Greaves is same price as Gluttonous Greaves. Berserker Greaves and Gluttonous Greaves is the same price, but yeah, Gluttonous Greaves only gives attack damage, movement speed, and then 7% Omnivamp, whereas like Berserker Greaves gives attack speed, 15 AD, like 30% attack speed, and also movement speed. So I mean, I think maybe going for Gluttonous Greaves now as a first item in a way for 35 AD could be pretty good. And it also now gives more AD than Boots of Dynamism, which is the armor pen AD boots, and it also costs 100 less. So I could see a world where Gluttonous Greaves can be built now. Again, maybe, or even if you're really crazy, you can go Gluttonous Greaves and Legend Bloodline and just rely on, like Xayah, for example, rely on Lethal Tempo and then also Phantom Dancer. Maybe you could do something like that because you get a lot more AD now from Gluttonous Greaves. So it can be really, really good. Adjustments, Neela, the base armor going up and the base health regen going up. I think this is wanted for sure. I played Neela a few times in Dual Lane and she's so difficult to lane. Like, she's one of the most difficult laning champions in the game because she's super squishy. She takes a lot of damage. Her range is super low as well. Every time I play against Neela, I always win the lane because Neela can't walk up to last hit minions. You can just zone her away from millions, and it's just really, really easy to be able to do that. So yeah, Neela in general, I think these base stats buffs are pretty nice. Then also the active damage ratio of a Formless Blade to monsters going down to 60%. Obviously, again, the same with Gwen. This was at 100% before, but now it's going down to 60%. So maybe Neela jungle was popular in some ranks. I didn't really see it too much in EU. Maybe it's a popular thing in, you know, China or other regions potentially. I didn't really see Neela jungle too much in EU. But this is a pretty big nerf though, you know, this being 100% before, now going down to 60%. Very interesting. Volibear, second ability. By the way, Volibear jungle is completely busted. I mean, I'm so glad that the Volibear jungle clear speed is getting nerfed. Volibear jungle probably had the fastest clear speed before we get to base health regen. Volibear jungle probably had the fastest clear speed out of anyone in the jungle because of his second ability. His second ability resets. You have your chain effect on your passive. You have your third ability, which does AoE damage. Just overall, Volibear's clear speed is insane, and he just becomes a super tank because you go overgrowth. You just gain a bunch of health. You'll be able to, you know, take a lot of damage and also deal a lot of damage at the same time. And you also have a lot of healing with something like Riftmaker. So yeah, really, really glad that this is getting nerfs. But also they're kind of compensating because the base health regen is going up ever so slightly on the second ability. So this is mainly to do with like laning phase Volibear because it doesn't really affect Volibear jungle too much. So it's like they're trying to go out of jungle Volibear and move him more into the top lane. But yeah, Volibear jungle was really, really strong. I actually have a video on Volibear jungle that I might release, but it might be pointless releasing now because Volibear jungle got nerfed. But it's a pretty insane game that I got with Volibear jungle. Maybe I'll release it, maybe I won't. There's also a second page with all the nerfs. Thank God Boots of Mana is being nerfed, by the way. Thank the Lord in heavens. This boots item was so busted. Anyway, before we get to that, some of the champions first. Olaf. I mean, Olaf is still pretty strong right now. He's really strong with the runes, with the items and everything else. So base attack damage or base damage overall on the first ability and the base damage on the third ability, both going down. 10 every rank for Undertow and 5 every rank for Reckless Swing. Might bring his clear speed down a little bit. Also bring his Baron lane down a little bit as well. Also damage the champions. Just overall, just a general nerf to Olaf. Again, I feel like he was pretty strong. It's no surprise there. Ornn, this champion's still fucking busted. Like, even after the nerfs that they did in 4.3, having things like overgrowth in the game just makes Ornn disgustingly busted. Base AD going down from 62 to 58. Pretty decent. Health per level going down by quite a bit, actually. Like, that's quite a lot. What's that? 16 per level. So you're losing like what, 200 HP at level 15 roughly. I'm just doing maths really quick off the top of my head. We lose like 200 HP at level 15, which can be pretty big. Again, you have to remember that like Ornn in general will just gain bonus stats anyway from things like overgrowth and also just from buying items in general because of his passive. So this is quite nice. Base AD going down is quite nice. It kind of affects his early game a little bit, but he's still really strong with all of his abilities. But saying that, his abilities are also getting a damage nerf. This is a pretty big nerf, 3% at every single rank for Bellows Breath, the second ability. This obviously scales with maximum health. So the more maximum health you buy, the more damage you deal. So it's not going to deal that much damage anymore. And the third ability, the bonus damage, it was 50% of your bonus armor and 50% of your bonus magic resistance. Now it's 40% of your bonus armor and 40% bonus magic resistance. Happy freaking days. I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. I think everything is okay with that. We cool with that. Yeah, I'm happy with this change. I mean, even Ornn support was pretty busted. I was playing with and against a few Ornn supports. This champion is just insanely strong. Like, I'm auto attacking an Ornn with like Kai'Sa, for example, like 20 million times, and the dude's just taking no damage. Like, he's just insane, like how tanky he is. So pretty nice changes there to Ornn. Rakan, kind of surprised that Rakan is getting nerfed again, especially when he had a huge massive nerf before, but they're nerfing a few other things this time. The nerf before was to his ultimate and second ability damage. Now they're actually nerfing his base shielding. It's like they're nerfing Rakan even more, which is actually kind of crazy. So Battle Dance, the base shield is going down by 10 at every single rank, and the base health is going down. This base health nerf is pretty big, by the way. Like 30 base health in the early game is actually pretty massive. And also the battle stance nerf shield is also pretty massive. They're just trying to nerf Rakan to the ground, I feel like, because I don't know if people remember the nerf that happened before to Rakan, but that was a pretty big nerf. Rakan still gets played every now and again, but now they're just nerfing him even more. I think they're really just trying to put him to the ground. Kind of crazy. Rammus, more nerfs to Rammus, I guess. I mean, I never thought this champion was very good. I mean, I guess he's kind of decent with the new runes, but I never thought he was this good to warrant a nerf. Move speed during rolling state increases to 60 plus 90. What the? Okay, this is too much maths for me. It looks like 60 plus 90 and then 14 times your level. Okay, I think the base value overall is just getting nerfed. It scales more with, it seems like it scales more with, actually no, it doesn't even scale more with level. It's like 14 times the amount of the level here, because it's bid mass, so it's brackets multiplication, so it'd be brackets, it'd be your level times 14 divided by 90 plus this, or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, it's a nerf anyway. I mean, it's only 35 base plus your level times 2 now, so it's nowhere near, you don't get near enough as much movement speed anymore during the rolling state. So yeah, you don't get as much movement speed anymore for your passive, so you're not gonna be able to move the roam around the map as quicker, which is a pretty big thing. Obviously, you still have Rammus's first ability, which still makes him super speedy, so that's okay. And armor increase on defensive defensive ball curl. I always say curl ball for some reason, like a curl ball. That's being reduced by 5% at every rank. Again, kind of surprised that Rammus is getting nerfed. I don't think he warranted nerfs, but hey, that's not my decision to make. Zoe, again, I honestly think Zoe was strong because of Boots of Mana. Like, the reason why Zoe was strong is because Boots of Mana is very strong. And the reason why mages in general are being played a lot more is because of this item, but I'll get to that in a second. Zoe's first ability, the base damage going down at 10 every single rank, and also maximum base damage. For those who don't know, the maximum base damage is basically the travel of the first ability. So the further the first ability travels on Zoe, the more damage you will be dealing. So that's really, really important to note, to make sure that you know that. So Zoe's first ability, make sure that you travel you know, obviously further distance, use your ultimate, you know, to come in handy. But the maximum damage now, the base damage is going down by a lot. So even if you land like a long range first ability and you get the maximum base damage, it's going down by quite a bit. I still think Zoe will one-shot you, but it's still pretty nice. Oh wow, even the damage on the third ability is going down by a lot. 20 damage, it looks like, at every single rank. Yeah, it scales a bit more with ability power, so the scaling into late game is pretty decent. The base damage is more to do with the early game, it seems like. The same also with the second half of the damage. So it looks like they're nerfing the base damage but increasing ability power, which basically means they're trying to nerf her early game power, but they're still trying to keep her same power in the mid and late stages of the game. So the more ability power you build, the more damage you're going to be dealing with the ability, which I think is completely fine. I think Zoe is strong at all points of the game at the moment, but I feel like you know, Zoe should be a late game powerhouse. You know, she should be a scaling mage that can still one-shot, you know, players, because that's kind of the skill of Zoe in the end. Now to the most important part, boots of mana being nerfed. Thank God, thank God, thank God. Oh my God, these boots were so annoying to do. Every single game you play against AP assassins or AP mages, they rush these boots first item. You gain 60 ability power for like 1,400 gold, and you gain 200 base mana regen. These boots were by far the most broken thing in this game. And to be honest with you, I still think they're going to be broken. I still think they're going to be strong. I don't think 5 ability power and 50% mana regen is going to do anything. I still think these boots are busted. 55 ability power still for spending like 1,400 gold and getting the base mana regen. Like, these boots are still completely busted and really, really strong. So still buy these boots, whether you're playing AP mages or AP assassins. These will still be strong. And plated steel caps. A lot of people don't know this. This is actually my shorts that's coming out tomorrow. A bit of a spoiler there. I'm actually going to be talking about plated steel caps and mercury treads, because their passives actually got changed. So plated steel caps actually doesn't block basic attacks anymore, and mercury treads don't give you tenacity anymore. And it was in the patch notes in patch 4.3. So yeah. Thanks, right? Anyway, so you block physical damage now with plated steel caps, and mercury treads blocks magic damage. Bit of a spoiler there, but yeah. Anyway, that'll be in tomorrow's shorts, little tip shorts. So blocking the physical damage is getting reduced on plated steel caps from 15 to 12%. This is scary. I normally build this on AD carries when I'm against like an AD assassin jungle, or if I'm against like 2 or 3 AD champions. Yes, it's a lot. Like 15% blocking of physical damage is a lot, but I think that I have to realize how strong AD assassins are in this meta. Kha'Zix, Rengar, Kayn. Like, obviously I'm going to be building and wanting to block 15% physical damage against them champions. And to be honest, it going down to 12% is a little bit scary, because now them assassins could deal more damage to me. To be fair, they can still one-shot me even with plated steel caps. So they're just going to one-shot me even more now with plated steel caps, apparently. Pretty crazy. I don't really understand that myself, but yeah, that is everything for the first look. As I mentioned, there are 2 things in this that are not in this first look that will be in the full patch notes tomorrow. I can't actually say what they are. I think most people will know what they are anyway. I probably won't do a full patch notes video tomorrow, since this first look is pretty much the same as what that is, and I'm giving you all my opinions here anyway. What I probably will do is make a short on the content of the changes that were not in this first look, and I'll do that in a separate video. And I'll do that in a separate shorts just to explain what the changes are. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything that we need to know about patch 4.3, pretty big patch actually, for a like a little mini patch. But to be fair, with such a big patch that came into patch 4.3 with the whole rune rework, you kind of expect all of these changes. Surprisingly, no rune changes at all, which is actually very surprising. They think that all the runes are balanced, or maybe they don't. They just couldn't change it this quickly. But we'll see how the patch goes anyway. Appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all. Sorry it's a late video, but this just came out now for some reason. I was just like, cool, I need to record it. So yeah, appreciate you all. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you again in the next water video. Peace.